So hi, I'm Rob with End of the Day, and this is Alex of End of the Day, and we're here for a rig rundown for Alex's gear. If you ever come out and see our shows, Alex plays pretty much anything you can blow into. So basically, when you go out, and I know I know all this stuff, but for the folks listening at home, what's your main workhorse instrument when you go out to play a gig?
I would say it's probably the flute. I think that's the one that we started playing with the most together when we first started just sitting down and jamming to a few different tunes. And so the flute probably was the one that I think we started playing with and trying to match songs with. A lot of it was that it was something that I could easily just play chords or just, well, not really chords, but you know what I mean, like play just one or two softer notes and you could play with whatever you wanted to, and it was an easy thing enough to do. So
now you're saying flute. This obviously isn't the silver monstrosity that everyone knows and loves, so tell us about this.
Right, so I mean, for years and years, when I worked at Fort George in Niagara Lake, there was an old sweetheart flute that used to sit in the officers' quarters that all of us would play. And it was always the responsibility of whoever, basically played it to beeswax all the cracks in it. I mean, it had to be so old, even though it was a reproduction, that you pretty much couldn't play it without beeswaxing in through the cracks. So myself and my buddy Pete ended up deciding to take advantage of the time the Canadian dollar was at par, and we decided to fork out and buy some flute. So I've had this flute now for about 20 years. It's a keyless flute, so it doesn't have any keys at all on it. So it's a very basic 6-fingered flute. It has had some damage, so it's got some medical tape around here that I've been basically keeping it together. But it's certainly it's been really my favorite instrument, certainly for the past 20 years.
And it's called a sweetheart flute?
Well, I mean, I've always just referred to it as my D flute, but it was from the Sweetheart Company. A feller by the name of Sweet made flutes for somewhere in the realm of 45 years and just recently retired. So I can't buy any more Sweetheart flutes, from what I understand. So,
okay. All right, so after that,
mm-hmm.
after the flute, what's your next kind of most go-to instrument?
D whistles. So the flute is in D. The whistles, that a lot of the tunes that we play, particularly the Celtic tunes and the maritime tunes, either they're already keyed in D, and so that's the way that, for example, you learned it or I learned it, or D just makes the most sense from a singing perspective, and so it ends up being certainly the most common, key that we play in. So these are both D whistles. I'm a little bit wishy-washy depending on the day of which one I prefer. They look identical. I mean, really, at the end of the day, they are. They're pretty much identical, but they to me, it depends on the day. They seem to have a different sound, and so I sort of flip back and forth between them.
And by the way, sorry, if you want to play along at home. If anytime anyone says at the end of the day, you just start cheering, and you can do this just out in your daily
game, really.
Yeah, you can do it like you can do it at work. You got to be careful though, because like I've been in conversations about funerals, finding out people are undergoing cancer treatment, and they use that phrase. And once you start doing it, you really got to put the brakes on if it's not the right moment. But for now, play along. You hear end of the day, you're like, hey!
Hey!
Now, but what I was going to ask is, this also says that it's a D whistle.
Right.
But this looks a lot different than those.
Certainly.
So what's going on?
So what you've got there is the Meg by Clark's, or actually most really modern whistles have a plastic tip on them. This is a more period style of which you would have found being used throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, with essentially a wooden block being used as the whistle portion of it. And so whenever I'm playing, say, with my real life job, where I'm playing in, it's kind of weird to say real life when I'm dressing in funny clothes from the 19th century, but anyway, so I play more 19th century instruments. But I find that in fact this one actually has a crisper and nicer sound than the more modern plastic version. So I tend to prefer to use the reproduction 19th century instruments.
So in the end, when we're looking at these things here, including this one. This is all basically the same instrument, right?
They're all the same. They're all basically the same fingering, the same kind of embouchure. Well, there isn't really. I mean, any numbskull with a pair of lungs and a beating heart can get a noise out of those. I mean, they're just whistles.
And then the size just changes.
It changes the key. So from the larger scale ones, this is an A to this tiny little one, which I believe is a. I don't remember. But anyways, that's maybe I should have left the sticker on it. Anyways, well, you can tell how often I play that one.
Well, okay. So what's the weirdest thing you have?
Probably this one here. We picked this up, and actually, I don't know if you remember this. You were with me. We went to Lucan, Ontario, which actually I stumbled upon several weeks earlier. I'd never been to Lucan. Of course, I'd heard it because of the Black Donnellys.
That's the antique shop.
Yeah.
Oh,
so we went to that antique shop in Lucan because I decided that I wanted to buy a hoser.
A what?
A hoser. Anyways.
Sorry. Stop. You don't get to walk past that. What's a hoser?
Hosier is
Hosier.
It's basically like a bakery cupboard with it's 1890s, early 1900s cupboard with rolling pin area and flour area and flour sifter.
Okay.
Very, very common in the late 19th.
Hoser.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Anyways, so but we found this, or I found this, and I never seen any kind of an instrument like this.
So
it was sort of a cross between a whistle and a fife, and in fact, it is called an H&K fife, or I refer to it as a tin fife. So if you can see, it's got the same kind of mouthpiece as a whistle, but then it blows over it the same way that you would with a fife or a flute. And so it was such a unique piece. It was on for, I don't know, $30, and I think I asked the guy if I could play it, and if I could play him a tune, can I get it for $25, that kind of thing. So it worked great, and to this day it's one of certainly the coolest little instruments that I like playing.
All right. Now, one of the things that I do know about here is the fife. It fundamentally looks the same as your flute. It's a lot higher pitched, obviously.
Extremely, yeah, and it was a signal instrument, so it was used for sending messages, or in militaries, it was used for basically providing orders and signals and that kind of thing.
So in the sorts of setups, the sorts of songs that we're doing in the sets, when is it that you kind of prefer to use the fife?
It's more you, I think, who prefers to use it. It's
okay.
more of a nostalgia of when you and I first met, when you were at Fort Malden and I was at Fort George in the Fife and Drum Corps. But it's more, I guess, when it's just it's because it is a bit of an odd key from the Celtic kind of maritime stuff. The B flat key isn't something that is commonly found, or at least that I've commonly found. So to be honest, it's more when I'm playing a tune and you're drumming or something like that I'll pull the fife out and sort of reminisce. But it can be very loud. It can be soft, but it can be a very loud, high-pitched, and certainly the most annoying of all the instruments that I have. So
now you also play the spoons.
Okay, well actually the most annoying instruments that I have is the spoons, and I'm sure that somebody else broke this, but I had two nice solid pewter spoons, but the one broke. But spoons are fairly standard in any kitchen ceilidh kind of thing, where you've got somebody like Eric Nagler sitting there and hammering away on the spoons. But
and you have a jaw harp.
Jaw harp as well, which is really good for dental work, because you use it right up against your teeth and suck it in out to be able to basically amplify the sound of this little tang thing here, which is a technical term, and basically trying to get that noise out there. So really, at the end of the day, I really only use this instrument to bug Rob when he's singing a song that really doesn't want me to do this. So anyway.
Well, now that it's nice now because like sometimes we play unamplified, and that it's hilarious when you play it because it doesn't carry over any other instrument. But I mean, we're going out for St. Patrick's Day this year. If you want to book us for Remembrance Day, that's great too. But for St. Patrick's Day and the other gigs we're looking to book, I mean, we're amplified now. We got a sound system, so you could play that right into the mic. That'd be great. Yeah.
So you can listen to my teeth cracking as it's
cool.
As it's being played. Yeah.
So, and of course, I mean, anyone who's ever gone to grade school and suffered, or maybe loved it, but I mean, I think we all know what that is, and we probably all have our own traumas surrounding it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful recorder. This is my grade 7 recorder, so that I've kept.
They gave you your.
We had to purchase them. It was like $12 or something. So.
Oh, I thought I was gonna I thought I was gonna expose you to the world that you stole that from the. School.
No. I went to a rich school. We paid for our instruments. And then the only other instrument I have is the changing key one, which is a really great one because you can change key on the fly if you need to. It's a really interesting instrument. You just basically go.
And you play it so well.
Well, I can't even get a note out of it. Oh. Well, whatever.
Well, you probably had a couple too many sips to change the key. But. So I don't know that would carry without amplification either. No. But anyway, so there you have it. The arsenal of weaponry played by Alex Dale when End of the Day gets together for any type of fun or frivolity. And hopefully you guys can come out and see some of this sometime soon. You know what? There's other stuff I'm sure coming down, but this is already booked, so I'll say it now. St. Patrick's Day is technically on a Sunday this year, but the Saturday night, Alex and I are going to be playing at Vernon's Pub and Grill in Kingsville. We're going to be playing from 8 until midnight, and it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be actually our first major, totally public St. Patrick's Day gig, and hopefully we'll see you guys there. So you want to take us out on the jaw harp?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's
all right. Play us a tune.
Okay. Any requests or favorite tunes?
Danny Boy?
Okay. Clearly not that tune.
Maybe something a little more up tempo.